Now for commodities market update, we have Bolanle Agbaje joining us right here in the studio.
Hi.
Great to have you again, Bolanle, and a lot is going on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
yes,
a lot is going on right now.
Yes, unfortunately.
Yeah, in the oil market, we saw a lot of volatility. We saw that, dump yesterday, talking about Brent, WTI, but it's a different story this morning.
Yes, and I think the different story has come because everyone is watching what OPEC would do in retaliation. There was a Wall Street Journal that came out, an article that came out, I think last week, where they mentioned the fact that they expected, OPEC to not cut output. But with what's going on right now, it seems like, with their December 4th meeting, they're most likely to, either cut output or leave it the same, but it's most likely to, go the other way. And at the same time, most people believe that even if they do cut output, it will just be numbers in terms of Saudi Arabia being the only one to pull back, because most countries have not been able to meet their quota. So it might only be technical, but at the same time, it would still signal, the higher prices that OPEC Plus is looking for. And also, notwithstanding the fact that, the price cap is also coming into effect on the 5th of December as well. And it will be nice to see how Russia responds to this. Obviously, at a price, I think some of the price speculators are, are suggesting that the price would more or less hover around $65 per barrel. And obviously, that's not going to be taken lightly. It wouldn't even be taken lightly by Russia. So it would be nice to see what they will do in terms of either restricting supply or, supplying at that price, or restricting supply. So it's a very uncertain time for oil prices, and it'll be nice to see how it unfolds within the next few weeks. And obviously the policy rate meeting, the US Fed meeting happening on the 14th of December as well.
And talking about the price cap, it looks like the EU and G7 have not been able to come to a consensus.
Yes, because it's a very hard decision. You're dealing with someone that is not, normally when you have decisions like this, the whole team is, in the meeting trying to figure out what's best for all countries. But in this case, you have countries deciding what, would happen, or how another country would sell its oil reserves. And it's a very uncertain type of decision to make. So I can understand why they're struggling with it, and they don't want it to, come back to them in terms of them as consumers. So all of that is why they're still struggling to find the right price for them, and seeing which countries would also follow suit in terms of following that price that they determine.
And it's also a tough, balancing act, trying to make sure there's still supply to the global market.
Yes.
Because we've seen Russia say they will not sell to countries that, place a cap,
yes,
on their oil. And at the end of the day, I'm wondering if they stop selling. Obviously, that's another risk.
So if they stop selling, the only option is for oil prices to skyrocket, and that's obviously not a result that the European Union and the G7 would want, especially the US. It's not what they crave for at this time. And so they're looking for where their power lies in terms of finding ways to make sure that the price cap is imposed when it comes to Russia. And
the deadline is about next week.
Yes.
What happens if they don't reach a price
within
cap?
this next few weeks, our hands are tied. We're watching, closely to see what happens. And it's just a very interesting time. We've never really been, speculators to this kind of, situation. It's a very peculiar one. And it's just, for me, at least, it's very interesting to see how they're able to, bring a country down in terms of the supply and the price the country can get from the world.
Bringing a huge giant, trying to muscle that giant down.
Yes, that giant down.
Definitely not easy. All right, let's look at LNG now. We see LNG prices are also down.
Yes, and that's just because, from summer this year, I think at about August, you had seen the European Union try to build on their gas reserves significantly, embrace for the winter, or the harsh winter that they expected. And winter, unfortunately, has not been, it has fallen, way below what they actually expected. It's actually better than what they expected. And obviously that's due to climate change. Nobody really can figure out or can hit the nail on the head when it comes to what kind of, extreme weather they're going to get. So it favors them, and they've been able to build their gas reserves for up to about 94%, I think. And that's, that's great for them. But it obviously going forward into 2023, when they've used these gas reserves over time, it'll be nice to see what happens to LNG price. The likely scenario is for, prices to inch up, significantly. And yeah, so that's just what's driving the market. Although we did write about, the stock market issue, and those are technicalities, but, what's keeping the price down at the moment is because the gas reserves are filled up.
All right, let's look at the cocoa harvest then, Cross River State, saying it will extend.
Yeah, so obviously the harvest it's great. I guess the weather that we're facing now is great for us, and it's a buoyant harvest. But what does this mean for us? It means that it will translate into, most likely, into our external reserves, which is great. In a case where you don't have, a buoyant harvest or an extended harvest, you most likely get the opposite. And cocoa has been, good for us at the moment, although the pricing factor and the fact that, Ivory Coast and Ghana are still struggling to get to a point where they can, keep prices at a certain level, or a price floor at a certain level. I think the price they were looking at was about $2,600 per ton, and currently the price is about $2,400. And it's not necessarily great for those countries. I think Ivory Coast had increased supply during this period. So obviously going forward, we'll be entering the planting season, and obviously that means there'll be reduced supply from our country at least.
All right, looking at all these commodities now, we've seen them hit record highs,
yes,
this year.
Yeah.
But it looks like the prices just want to go down from here. So have they peaked?
So it'll be hard to determine if they have peaked, and that's just because once you get into the new year, January, February, you're more or less entering the planting season again, and what that does is that it boosts prices even further. We don't see prices declining anytime soon. Obviously, the fuel scarcity, so increased cost all around the cities in Nigeria, and it's not necessarily, it would definitely translate into higher prices. And, inflation figures have already faced, the heat, especially when it comes to transportation.
And with the cues we're seeing right now, that means the inflation figure for November.
It's likely to increase, although it would be nice to see what the impact of the higher interest rates would have on, money supply, and all this, the situation of releasing the new Naira notes and all of that, and how this unfolds with the country at the moment. But at the same time, the fuel queues, it's one thing to have fuel queues, and it's another thing to be buying, the pump price of petrol at ridiculous, amounts. I think the black market charges about 500 Naira per litre. Is ridiculous. And so many people, in order to not waste time, they've been able to, they had no choice but to resort in purchasing that type of fuel, and obviously that translates into higher prices. Although in December it's not uncommon to see fuel scarcity, but this recurrent fuel scarcity that we're seeing at the moment, and it seems like it's not going anywhere for now. It'll probably be coming off and on, and it's not necessarily great. This kind of uncertainty is not necessarily great for businesses, for individuals, consumer households within a country. It makes them less efficient, and it's just this December is bearish.
Right. We can't really say dirty December.
No, I don't think so.
And obviously, we did see that.
And it's a bit quiet as well.
Yes, it's quite quiet. Yeah, and we did see that headline, yesterday, talking about the real price of PMS once the subsidy is taken out, about 400 Naira.
Yes. And, you're seeing the same price with diesel. Like, diesel is about 800 Naira per litre. And that's because it's reflective of what's happening, in the global atmosphere.
Right.
So obviously, I'm not surprised by, that price that they've come up to. But at the same time, it'll be nice for the government to do away with this subsidy and just make things a bit more clearer. In a case where, you're allowing the price, float and see and, be determined by market, by the market, you would have a situation where it wouldn't be sustainable to, create these artificial fuel queues by all these, by the different depots that exist in the country. In a situation where you have a particular filling station charging, whatever price that they feel like charging, and there's no fuel queue there, it would obviously incentivize other, filling stations to do, or either, break the price or just to attract markets. And,
right.
The market can more or less reflect for itself. So it's the uncertainty with the price is just, it's just not great.
All of our price
Yes.
right now. Thank you so much, Bolanle Agbaje, analyst, financial derivatives company.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
All right, so we'll take a break now. When we come back, we head on to the markets. Just stay with us. This is Business Morning.